I feared that we were in some very grave trouble when somebody was showing exact, edited, fully polished footage from last week's episode on a fucking iPad. Edited. Looking exactly the same it did last week, where you clearly know nobody was there to film it. Hey guys, David here with a really quick review of Inhumans. Once more, David, you already covered it. I mean, nobody else is doing it. Why should you? Because I'm different, and because I'm weird, and because I'm kind of masochistic. So I'm going to continue to watch Inhumans to see if maybe we can find a nugget of an episode that could be like, ooh, this could be the one. This is the Marvel that I'm talking about. Yeah, not so much. But I can honestly, thankfully say that Marvel's second, or I guess you could consider this the third episode, because the first two episodes kind of made up the premiere, like an hour and a half long premiere, part 1 and part 2. So this counts as episode 3. And fortunately, I can say that this is actually quite better than the first two episodes. Not saying a whole lot. Now, I'm not talking leaps and bounds necessarily here, alright? It's gonna take a while for that to potentially happen, because yes, there's still some significant flaws when it comes to a little bit of the editing, a little bit of the acting. Crystal's still terrible. Yeah, she's still, yeah, holy shit. You got laughably, really badly made moments where you're just like, did anybody here go to at least some kind of film school or some kind of virtual thing? Did you watch stuff online or grow up watching TV or films? Because things like this don't happen in a TV show, whatever. You're in a prison, and what's your retaliation versus the cops' brutality? I'm gonna throw a basketball. And my god, if I was a Hawaiian native, I would take offense to how this episode portrays the homeland security of Hawaii. Because man, whether it be a regular house in the upper hills of suburbia here in Hawaii, or like within a gated community, or the prisons that are supposed to withhold some of the most dangerous inmates, the security here sucks. Anybody could just walk in and out of these places and just steal all your shit. But what I thought was partly miraculous is that this episode was half as long as the first one, and yet I was able to more cohesively figure out what was going on with these characters and kind of follow them on their little journey as they're all slowly but surely going to be reuniting within the episodes to come, while at the same time kind of checking in on Maximus and Crystal up in Adelan. I'm almost blinking on the name here, but their story was a little bit on the weak side. There were a couple of people here that did suffer from the plot. For one, it was Maximus and Crystal up in the moon, because it was more of a progression type thing where it was him, somebody just trying to convince the Genetic Council to be like, hey, look, I'm king now. And besides that, nothing really else progressed except for a couple of flashbacks that I did find somewhat interesting. And the reason why I say that is because, yes, it is a little cliche to have the younger brother be like, I want to be king, and then the father says, no, it's him who has the right to be king. And then you got that one douchebag of a leader of the Genetic Council who Maximus killed in the first episode, and I was like, okay, was that really necessary? Now I'm starting to figure out that maybe it wasn't necessary, at least from Maximus' point of view, because this guy's a dick. This guy has like the worst bedside manners, because he just tells it like it is and says, you will never be king, or this guy has the worst voice and you will never hear the voice of your son ever again. I'm like, you know, if I was a king, I would punch you in the face so hard. But there was a little moment towards the beginning. One of the earlier flashbacks showed that Black Bull didn't want the throne in the first place. So I thought that would have been a cool dynamic for him to have one of his last words be like, here, you can have the throne, brother, but then his voice gets kind of cut off, and then their signals kind of get misinterpreted, and yet he still gets put on the throne. I think that it could have been a really interesting thing because of how they kind of introduced it there at the beginning. They never really followed through with it. And then you got Medusa, who has like 5 minutes of screen time, and they kind of take her and simply just move her from point A to point B. She has a slight fish out of water element where she's trying to interact with an ATM, but that never gets really a good laugh out of me. I mean, they could have used something really humorous with that, and they never did. They never followed through. And then all she does is just break into somebody else's house, very conveniently jacks all their shit, which is a little messed up, but at the same time, they look like the type of white family that kind of moved there with their thousands, so I think it's maybe okay for now. Anyways, she leaves from there, and now the next thing you know is she's out of prison, which does lead to something interesting, which is her uniting with the NASA lady, and I'm like, okay, that could be a cool dynamic here in the next episode. And Gorgon fights off some of Maximus' lackeys that he sends, and there's nothing really interesting there besides the guys having licenses to own crossbows and guns, and hanging from trees. That, again, some moments of that you have to really try to really believe, because it was just kind of like, these guys are willing to give their lives for a guy they met that day. Like, what the fuck are they doing? However, I found something interesting about that entire plot, because I didn't really care for it that much, except for one guy. And I think his name is Mortimus, whatever, but he has a really goofy looking helmet. And I was like, when he emerged from the chamber up in Adelan, I'm like, oh god, one of these cyborg looking things that are supposed to be intimidating, but, you know, comes off as goofy. Well, you know who else thought was goofy? That character, because he got to Earth, and then almost everything that he was saying, I was like, just keep going with this, and I'm actually gonna love this character more so than our main Inhumans, because he was saying some sarcastic shit. He was having a swagger, like an attitude about it, and I'm like, okay, bring him back and do more with him. Don't just stay at this level. Don't be stagnant with it. Elevate, build on it, elevate on it, and I think you can get a really cool villain out of this. The two stories I cared about the most was in fact the one with Black Bolt, of him being in prison and befriending this guy who I thought was like, came out of nowhere and be like, I'm gonna help you now, and I'm like, why? It was actually a very cool reveal that he was an Inhuman himself at the end there, and I was like, okay, that was captivating, that was interesting. And even the look on Black Bolt's face, who again continues to kind of charm me here and there, because ever so often he does have that stagnant, really stoic and serious look, but then he kind of like looks at something, realizes how kind of bullshit it is, and he's just like, and I think that something can work there. Again, much like with the other stuff, they need to build on it. Don't just plateau with it. Keep building on it. And I really appreciate that he got out of prison by the end of this episode, because if he was in prison for like another episode, or maybe even a second one, I was like, no, come on, you are really just staling this entire plot. And I'm glad that he gets picked up by some dude who has a significant interest in him, and also that Hawaiian dude, and I'm hoping that maybe a cool dynamic could be built out of that. And then the other story would be the one with Karnak, I think is his name, the guy that can kind of like predict certain outcomes and whatever. It's nice to see that thing that he relied on the most to feel unique about himself and to feel dependable about himself is now kind of shut up because of his head injury. And it was also really kind of out of nowhere and fucking silly that he ran across some potheads. Out of anybody that he could have run out on the island, he runs into some potheads headed by this Walmart brand Nathan Drake looking motherfucker. And I'm like, okay, something can work there. But more to the point, and a much more serious note, I actually felt for this character when he was going on about how useless he felt, and how this power was one of the more significant ones, one that could really benefit the team, and now it's kind of shot. And I felt for him, and that was a good testament to the actor who was able to kind of win me over with that thing. And here's to hoping that maybe Karnak could learn to loosen up and be cool and smoke some of the, what's it called, ganja? So there you have it. I thought I was going crazy, but I actually ended up seeing some more positive than negative in this episode. Now, granted, it could have been for the shorter running time, but I can fortunately say that the pain is starting to alleviate. So I'm going to be giving this third episode of Inhumans a high 6 out of 10. It's still on the okay level, but like I said, it's definitely an improvement over the last episode, just not leaps and bounds, because it's not saying much. So if you're still watching Inhumans, all 5 of you, please let me know in the comments what you guys think of this latest episode of Inhumans. Do you think it's going in the right direction, or do you think it's just still as shitty, or still as mediocre, or just meh as that premiere was? Let me know what you guys thought in the comments. Make sure to like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe for future reviews on Inhumans should I decide to continue, and should there not be an episode that's just gonna punch me in the ball sack. It's gonna make me want to rage quit on this thing. Until next time, guys, take care. Finally, it came to ABC. I watched the episode, and now here are my thoughts on Marvel's Inhumans, which is created by the same guy who created Iron Fist. Jesus fucking Christ.